Thank you for joining us at this time. You're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business Television. The top stories. President Bola Tinubu asks Nigerians not to be worried about Japa syndrome. Fears mount as kidnappers kill 3, demand a ransom in Abuja. Federal government to provide electricity to unserved and underserved communities in Nigeria. Details coming up shortly. Welcome back. I am Omohefe Peace Osemere. President Bola Tinubu has asked Nigerians not to be worried about the mass exodus of young professionals to other countries, otherwise known as Japa. Japa is said to be a local parlance for the mass exodus of skilled professionals seeking greener pastures abroad. Tinubu stated this during an official visit to Imo State to witness the inauguration of the second term of Governor Hope Uzodimma in Owerri. The president said more Nigerians would be trained to fill the vacancies that exist as a result of those relocating overseas. Now, fresh revelations have revealed that President Bola Tinubu had approved the release of 3 billion naira to verify the National Social Register under the former administration of Muhammadu Buhari. The special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, disclosed this yesterday. This is against the backdrop of the ongoing investigation into the alleged misappropriation of 585 million naira by the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, Dr. Betta Edu. The presidency has called for restraint and patience from Nigerians, warning against a media trial. The social register was created for cash transfers and other social investment programs under Buhari. Now let's move on to other matters where fears mount as terrorists, bandits and criminals reportedly wreak mayhem in 6 states and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Abuja. This is on the heels of kidnappers who abducted 10 persons from an estate, Sagwari Layout in Dutse, on January 7th. In a more devastating development yesterday, the kidnappers reportedly killed 3 of their victims to send a strong warning to their relatives negotiating ransom payment. Media reports have it that the bandits had increased their ransom demand from 60 million naira per person to 100 million, and now totaling 700 million naira. Residents said the victims were allegedly killed over the delay in raising the ransom demanded by the kidnappers. It was gathered that neither the force headquarters nor defense headquarters responded to calls on an inquiry about what they were doing to stem the tide of insecurity in the country at press time yesterday. To other matters, the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, has commended the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, for its policy of free registration for people living with disabilities. It would be recorded that JAMB, which commenced the sale of form for its 2024 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examinations yesterday, also introduced waivers for PWDs. Reacting to this development, NAN's president, Comrade Lucky Emonefe, said the gesture would encourage PWDs to strive to achieve their potential and pursue their academic dreams. You are watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Still to come, an international human rights organization, Global Rights, says former President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration was characterized by threats or intimidation of journalists and protesters. Details of this and more after the break. Do join us again. Welcome back. You're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has vowed that the federal government will provide electricity to unserved and underserved communities in Nigeria. The minister made the vow yesterday during the project inspection and impact assessment of the 90-kilowatt solar hybrid mini-grid at Adefila, Ogbomosho. The inspection is set to be part of his working tour on power facilities in Nigeria. Adelabu, who assured that the project can power over 1,300 households, including clinics, schools, and mini businesses in the community, noted that the solar hybrid mini-grid project had taken people out of the energy poverty. An international human rights organization, Global Rights, has said the administration of the former president Muhammadu Buhari was characterized by threats or intimidation of journalists and protesters. The organization added that Buhari made frantic efforts to suppress freedom of expression and monitor how and for what purposes citizens assembled. Global Rights stated this in its report titled Shege, a scorecard on the Buhari administration's impact on Nigeria's civic space, which was published on January 13, 2024. According to the report, in the 8-year term of President Buhari's administration, Nigeria witnessed a notable decline on all frontiers of the civic space and basic freedoms. Moving on now, President Bola Tinubu, alongside Senate President Godswill Akpabio and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, were among those who laid wreath at the 2024 Armed Forces Remembrance Day yesterday. For the first time since assuming office, the president presided over the historic event at the National Arcade in Abuja, inspecting the Guard of Honor mounted by a detachment of the Nigerian Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Nigerian Legion. 3 volleys of 21-gun salute were fired at the event, followed by the president's signing of the Remembrance Day anniversary registers and the release of white pigeons to indicate the nation's harmony. Also at the laying of wreath were the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, the Minister of Defense, Abubakar Badaru, and the Minister of State, Bello Matawale. Celebrated globally to recognize and appreciate the sacrifices made by citizens for the cause of peace, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration is commemorated annually on the 15th of January in Nigeria, with a day set aside to honor the fallen heroes who laid down their lives in service to humanity during the First and Second World Wars, the Nigerian Civil War, peace missions, and various internal security operations. Also brings about memories of these heroes, those who have passed on, and also those who are still fighting gallantly to defend the nation's integrity and territorial borders. The event, which was marked across the country yesterday, was also used to honor veterans still alive and as a medium for soliciting financial, moral, and material support for the families of the fallen heroes. Beyond commemorating this day, the questions on the lips of some Nigerians are as follows. Have the labor of the heroes past yielded results? Beyond commemorating this day, how well have the families of fallen heroes been catered for? And to the ones alive and gallantly serving the country with heart and might, shouldn't they be motivated to do more by way of welfare packages and remuneration? However, the federal government has promised to ensure better days for military personnel, veterans, and their families. Joining us now to discuss this and probably get answers to some of these questions is the Security and Public Affairs Analyst, Comrade Salihu Mahmoud Dantata. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Efe.
All right. Is it still, in place for me to say a happy Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration? I mean, it was yesterday, I understand.
Well, it still goes. Just the way if we celebrate Salah today, the next day you can say Happy Salah. Okay. And we celebrate Christmas, the next day you can still say it. So it's, you're on course.
All right, thank you very much. Now, a lot has been said with regards to, this annual Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration in Nigeria. Year in, year out, promises are made, and at the end of the day, it appears there is little or nothing to show, after these promises are made. But what do you have to say about, this year's, Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration, which held yesterday?
Well, Well, you see, we are in era of renewed hope.
Right.
That is the slogan of the President and Commander-in-Chief, Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu Jagaban Borgu. So I think for his administration being fresh, we will go by what he analyzed in his speech and emphasized as well. Because there he called for sober reflection, he called for respect for the fallen heroes, then also he promised to improve on some of the packages for the wives of the slain officers, made up of both Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, and others. Because if you observe annually, the lane of red outside that of the President, the Vice President, who is unavoidably absent because he's holding a brief for the President in one of the countries.
Davos. Then
you had the heads of the arms of government, that is from the Senate President, Speaker, Chief Justice of Nigeria, to service chiefs, because the Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army, Naval and Air Staffs, as well as Inspector General of Police also led the raid. Then in states also, the governors did so alongside the commanding officers, commissioners of police, and representation of other uniform agencies. The issue beyond promises, implementation also matters, because since inception, don't forget the ex-servicemen have what you call Nigerian Legion. Even the Legion has been complaining that they've not been taken care of.
Right.
You go to offices in FCT, for instance, you see certain people wearing certain green uniform written Legionnaire here. These are ex-servicemen. If you know the poor package they give to them, even though they've already finished serving, some have retired, some left due to certain circumstances. That is what makes them to be called the Legion and what have you. Even with the security jobs they render to some government offices, they are not being taken care of, where they stay months without being paid a house of God. And even chairperson of the Association of the Slain Officers' Wives, even at the non-soldier arcade yesterday, was mentioning that they need social security, they need welfare. In fact, chairman of Legion in his speech emphasized that most of the wives of some of the slain officers that died of recent, that are in the barracks, don't even know their fate, because they don't even have homes, they don't have where to go to. And there is what you call post-housing scheme. The essence of the post-housing scheme is to cater for them after serving the country, whether dead or alive or whatever, so that their family can stay. For those alive, can be able to. Most of these post-housing scheme, the houses are not even occupied by most of these retired officers or even the wives of the slain officers, which ought not to be. Today, I can tell you emphatically that every arm of the armed forces have what you call housing scheme. That's why you have Naval Holdings Limited, where they also have the housing scheme. You have Air Force Holdings Limited. You have the Army Holdings Limited. These houses, unfortunately, the beneficiaries are even people that are not members of the armed forces.
No, that actually speaks volumes.
I can give you an example of Abacha Barracks there, Mogadishu, that is not far. When you are entering Mogadishu Barrack, you know it's a one-way road. After that bridge, when you come, where you see the personnel checking before you go left and go to Mogadishu Barracks, by the right, there is Air Force Housing Estate there. How many of these ex-service Air Force officers are there? Same way with that of the Army. That is in Tungamaja and other areas. But same thing with that of the Navy.
The idea behind this whole, thing, whether or not they are being abandoned by government or not, do you think it is deliberate?
It's corruption that is responsible for everything. Because where you have the properties of these members of armed forces, you go into private sector, what have you, then you've built those houses. You refuse to give 60% consideration to retirees and wives of slain officers. What have you done? Just because you want to attract investment and make money. Forgetting that armed forces is not for money making. Whatever revenue you generate is supposed to be for the betterment of the lives of both the ones that are serving and the ones that are retiring, even the slain ones.
Time will not permit one to, recite the national anthem on the show right now. But of course, a line that says, the labor of our heroes past, shall not be in vain. Is that the reality on ground today? You
see, that reminds me, there is a popular Yoruba musician, is now late, Sikiru Ayinde Barrister. In one of his albums in the 90s, The Truth, he expressed these issues where he said somebody served the country, especially in the armed forces, retired, that person has become from hand to mouth. Then for those that are not alive, they forgot it because he himself was a military personnel. In fact, Sikiru Ayinde Barrister fought the Nigerian Civil War. In fact, most of the times in his records, he will mention, you remember how he was shot in Abagana, his leg and what have you. That is Fuji. He created the Fuji gear. Not many younger Nigerians know that late Dr. Sikiru Ayinde Barrister was a military personnel. In fact, he retired as a substantive sergeant. He works it in his album. In fact, there was a time Fela was calling the military zombie. The same Sikiru Ayinde Barrister of blessed memory went and replied Fela Anikulapo, for the revolutionary musician, that don't call soldier zombie any longer because there are sacrifices they made. In fact, there was one of his albums called Military. He particularly, tagged that album Military in order to capacitate the efforts of the military because he was there. He also fought civil war, where in the what have you, he said the action of the military is how a man is supposed to do.
All right.
So the issues I'm trying to tell you is that those members of the armed forces, including even police, that is why the IG is also there to most of the mobile police conventional officers that also die in battlefield are also members of the security. So to an extension, beyond just Army, Navy, Air Force, the police also lay right there. So that is why the IG is there. So even the police to their pension that we'll be fighting for, that they should take away their pension from pension administration to make it separate, like military pension, where no civilian is even supposed to be there. It should be purely managed by police officers. So because they're all together fighting the battle.
So, from what you've just said now, the labor of,
our Heroes Pass should not be in vain, but from look of all things, it has been in vain. Because there was a National Patriot Summit by one young Nigerian ambassador, Phil Roberts, from Delta State, that I was a member of it. In fact, that clip is still on YouTube, where I wore grey, white, green. I was mentioning those things. The labor of our heroes past should not be in vain. But from the way we are not eulogizing them, immortalizing them, it's been in vain. Today, if you retire as a general or you are late as a brigadier, okay, look at people like Lieutenant Colonel Abu Ali. Who is immortalizing him today? He died in battlefield. Those that died during Biafran Civil War, those that died for the country, and also others. We know of UK Bello that died during the coup.
Okay, so beyond eulogizing these, great heroes,
yes,
who have actually paid the supreme, price with their lives, it all centers around, the poor welfare for the families, and those who are still serving.
We cannot say that the people that have poor welfare are the other ranks. Okay. Now, I'll give you an example. Unfortunately, in the land army, I don't know of the Navy and Air Force, a private in Nigeria army is still taking 50,000 naira. A lance corporal is taking 57. Then the corporal also. So the issues are the officers, commissioned officers, are fairly treated because even office accommodation, housing accommodation, those of the commissioned officers differ. When I say commissioned officers, from second lieutenant upward, then the non-commissioned officers are from the master warrant officer to warrant officer 1, warrant officer 2, staff sergeant, sergeant, corporal, lance corporal, and private. So I don't know of the Navy and Air Force, but I'm telling you of the land army, their welfare are very, very poor. For example, forget about the Mogadishu barracks you see here, other barracks that are within the Federal Capital Territory. If you want to see reality, go to Kaduna, like those quarters in Armed Forces Command and Staff College in Jaji. Poor accommodation. Go to 81 Barracks, NDA old site in Kaduna. Kotoko Barracks, poor. Dalek Barracks, the barrack accommodation for the other ranks is poor. They go to Ojo Barracks in Lagos and other cantonments across the country.
Let's shift our focus a little bit, away from the welfare package, whether or not it is poor, and all of that. Let's talk about, the promises that, the federal government keep making every year when we have to celebrate the Armed Forces, Remembrance Day. Now, the federal government has promised to ensure better days for military personnel, veterans, and their families. Well, while one wants to say that this is perhaps a statement that will not hold water, but of course our fingers are crossed to see. After all, this is a renewed hope administration that we are dealing with at the moment. That aside, shouldn't there be a situation where we have to look back and say, okay, these are the gains that we must have to celebrate, and that is what should make, the celebration, per year quite remarkable. You take a look at, the unrest across the country at the moment, cases of, kidnapping, bandit activities, insurgents striking here and there. Is there really anything
You see,
take note
members of the armed forces and the police have over time been laying their lives for us. Forget, beyond the shores of Nigeria, they contributed to bringing stability in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Congo crisis in 1956, the likes of retired General Obasanjo, former president, they participated in that. Then don't forget, even during the Second World War, a particular captain from northeastern part of the country participated there. He fought alongside the white people. That is today, even is celebrated. Of recent, the documentary was held. Then at the advent of insurgency and banditry, members of the armed forces and the police and other security agents have laid their lives. We know numbers of them we've lost in the northeastern part of Borno, Adamawa, including northwestern part of Zamfara, Katsina, Niger, and others. Then again, don't forget, even though that one was not during war, Achilles 130, that during the reign of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, that grounded in Ejibo, where some young military officers died and also for that. So they've been giving their lives to this country to go. Look at the younger one in Kaduna, even though it was not in active service, but she participated in killing bandits in Beningwari Forest, Flight Lieutenant Arotile from Kaba. I cannot easily forget her. She's like my daughter. People like Arotile, look at, they laid their life. People like Major Fambia, who died in northeastern part of the country, Lieutenant Colonel Ali, and host of other, even one brigadier general that was going for reinforcement that was ambushed by Boko Haram, and quite a number of them, the way they died in land army, so they died in Navy, Air Force, Police, DSS, and even some other components like Armed Squad of Immigration, Civil Defense, and what have you. The issues are beyond policy statements. Federal government need to have a special trust fund for these fallen heroes, where their children henceforth need not to pay school fees from primary till university with promise of automatic jobs. Because human capacity building exceeds physical building. No matter what money you give to them, whatever, when you take away the what have you of their education, give education. Let federal government give them special henceforth. Children of slain members of the armed forces, police, and other security agencies, let federal government grant them automatic scholarship, no matter what their numbers are in the family, up to university.
Is that realistic?
It's realistic. We have all the money. What is the importance of TED fund? What is the importance of PTDF and what have you? See, Nigeria has money. Is it not when this revelation of humanitarian scandal came that you knew that people can withdraw 3 billion without being noticed, even with NFIU in existence and other anti-graft agencies? Let me tell you,
it is unfortunate.
If they want to do it, they will do it. Even the monies that the convoys of generals, rear admirals, air vice marshals, and other people holding appointments like GOCs, flag officer commandants, air officer commandants, zonal AIGs, commissioners of police, they use for their entourage is enough to educate some of these people. Police, for instance, have trust fund. The private sector contribution is there, contribution from all sector, federal government, and what have you. Then the army also have their own monies. All the 3 arms of the armed forces, they have their organs, where they are into private sector driven investments.
All right.
So they have the money to pay.
I mean, one must say that it's really, really beautiful to watch you speak with so much passion as far as, the issues that have to do with Nigeria, as far as these issues are concerned. I'm afraid we just have to leave the conversation here now because of time. But of course, let's see how events would unfold. I mean, before this time next year, probably we'll have, milestones to, celebrate and, perhaps something more remarkable to talk about.
We are praying because, thank God, we have 2 former governors as Minister of Defense and Minister of State Defense, respectively. So let us see, under democracy, let us see what they go. But even though people are saying under democracy, the security arena had added well, but not the other ranks. It's the senior officers that have been having it nice.
All right. Beyond celebrating the Armed Forces Remembrance Day in Nigeria, what's next? That's a question that we must have to leave you with as citizens. Well, thank you so much, Comrade Saliu Mahmoud Dantata, a security and public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for talking to us. Thank
you very much. The pleasure is my eloquent and erudite fellow, FA of all times.
All right, thank you. And that's it for news analysis today. I am Omo, a piece of Several. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back at the top of the hour with the news update. Good afternoon.